All right. Yeah, we're live. Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Brooke Sweetar, the Tech Baddie podcast host, and I'm here with Brian Feaster, Mal Pacheco. Thanks, guys, so much for joining. I'm really excited that we're getting to do a build in public together. This is going to be super cool, and I'm hoping to learn a lot, and I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of questions
Yeah.
along the way. So thanks for your patience. But Brian here, he is one of the founders of Meet Near Me. And I'm really excited for him to share more about what he's doing with this service. He's already got paying users. It's already something that's in motion. And I've been really fortunate to get a behind the scenes look at the code base myself. It's really, really cool. And I love that my two friends are coming together because my other friend, Mao, who also works for Microsoft, he's got this amazing product that he's working on. I like that, not a raccoon. That's great, Mao. But he is the Vocal Cat founder, a tool which I am in the process of leveraging into me growing my social media presence. But it's basically an amazing tool to help you post cross-platform while still keeping your voice without losing your authenticity, which is something I'm always talking about and trying to advocate for. I think that there's so much noise on social media, and even though I'm a one-woman band, I'm trying to grow my own brand on different platforms as well. So there's a really cool intersection here to help Brian's users, Brian's customers on Meet Near Me utilizing VocalCast. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to be integrating that with Meet Near Me. So Brian, I'd love for you to start and just tell us a little bit about what Meet Near Me is and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brooke, and appreciate you joining us and collaborating again. Last time we talked about Build in Public was a while back with me, you, and John Cricket, which was a fun time. So I believe in it, and I'm finally following through on what we talked about way back when. I've been thinking about doing this for a long time. So, but yeah, Meet Near Me, high level is, I think that right now, the only two places that I can think of are well known by most people to like find in-person events are pretty much Meetup and Eventbrite. And
Right.
so, those platforms, in my opinion, are kind of aging not well, I guess. I feel like they are. I just had somebody tell me a story a couple days ago about how like they're in Chicago and they can't even control the radius of like their event search on Eventbrite to be able to find like stuff in the suburbs or something like that. You know
Right.
what I mean? And so anyway, all that to say, a big part of what I'm doing with Meet Near Me is actually the idea that with AI, because like to sell things now, you got to say it has AI, but it really does have meaningful AI in Meet Near Me, which is essentially that a vector database is super important here. And just to explain that to anybody who doesn't understand, the way that LLMs work is that you have to imagine almost like the human brain or like the cosmos, and there are these constellations of data points that have like really really deep trillions of data points and that sort of thing, right? In a similar way, historically search works by searching for a string match, full text search, right? And so in full text search, if you're looking for a specific thing, you have to know what you're looking for in advance, right? So it's a big loss in terms of if you want to find something to do, right, in person, you might not yet know about the thing. That's the whole point, right? That's why you're
Right.
searching, and so in Meet Near Me, you can actually do vector search, which means that it has a vector database that backs all of the events. And so you might search for the word organic, and it might show you the Sacramento Farm to Fresh Festival, but the
Mhm.
word organic appears nowhere in the title or description. So super powerful. One of the A good friend of mine who worked at AWS for many years, she said it's like one of the no bullshit parts of the AI, revolution or whatever. So
Yeah.
anyway, we also host, I'll probably show a little bit of, we host communities that do like competitive karaoke league, and in-app we do real-time voting where like red team or blue team, everybody votes to see who won, and then you give points and have a leaderboard. And so that's just a part of how we're trying to empower communities, because those kinds of like recurring events, as much as that doesn't sound super glamorous, that's a real foundation of community. And so, it's part of what we're doing for our customers today. So anyway, long intro, sorry, but yeah, Maho, or
Yeah,
Brooke.
absolutely. No, I love it. I think it's really, really cool. I am not sleepy. Yeah, it's early, Mal. I know you're on the West Coast, so it's really early for you. And, I think neither you or I are particularly morning people. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining. But Mal, yeah, I'd love for you to talk about first, of course, what Vocal Cat is, why you were even inspired to start this project, which I think is really, really cool, and then also a little bit of how you're going to be integrating it with Meet Near Me today.
Yeah, so I mean, this is one of those side projects that when I try to learn, I always try to create something that is useful or is like something that I can use, especially if you can dog food your own products. So I started being more active in LinkedIn about a year ago, and I mean, it's easy. You go there, you post, you have memes and stuff, and it just starts growing, right? But I mean, before that, I was already active in Twitter. I was already active in Facebook at the time, and then I started managing all the different social media. It can get overwhelming, right? So I love to write like long text form. I love to write like blog posts. So I also have my own blog post, and I decided to create the Substack. So I mean, and then you start like getting more and more and more.
Right.
And I know that people love to focus sometimes in just one platform, but I'm really advocate for open platforms. So I started getting into Mastodon, in the Fediverse, in all these different platforms. And then I decided to do videos too, right? Like, oh, I will go in TikTok or I will go to YouTube. So it is really a lot of work, like being a creator. And I don't consider myself a creator because I really respect other creators as Broke. It is a lot of effort. Like just having a video, it is not just recording 1 hour, right? So it's recording the video and then working in the description, working in the post that you need to post in LinkedIn. That is different than the ones that you're going to post in Twitter. And it's different if you have a blog post that you need to put another kind of text. And then sometimes people write the blog and also write the video. It is super overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I decided to create this tool because I already have some bots there using LLMs in the internet, and I decided to create this tool that transforms from different formats to another format. So I can focus, for example, in my blog post, and then automatically will take my style, my form, my tone, and then create my post for LinkedIn and for Twitter and for Mastodon and even the script for a video in TikTok or for YouTube, right? Or I can focus in my YouTube channel. And then once that I create my video, it will take the transcript and the description and will create automatically my post in LinkedIn and all other stuff. However, at the time, AI and LLMs were used everywhere. And there are like hundreds of social media management tools that does that or very similar. Like the challenge is one, understand the different social medias. Every social media is different. Like you cannot put something in LinkedIn and just copy paste to Twitter. First for the format, right? You have like different texts, but also for like what the community represents. Even different microblogging platforms like Threads, Blue Sky, Twitter, Mastodon, those are different. Like if I go to Threads, I don't need to have thousands of followers to create something that is viral. But if I go to Twitter, even if I have thousands of followers, I mean, I barely get any engagement if I have a subscription. So like understanding each platform is different. In the Fediverse, you need to use hashtags and stuff. So Vocal Cat gets there to help along all that, like help to maintain your style, to voice, focusing what platform, managing all the stuff that I don't want to manage so I can focus in what matters more, like my content. And then Brian reached out. I believe it's because Broke, but it or something like that. Like it was because Meet Need Me needed like the social platform part, and yeah. So like creating the tool is one thing, which is a lot of effort. But then the second thing is to just manage the registration process with all the social media platforms.
Yeah.
It is a pain it is a pain. Just going through all of that is a pain. You need to register companies and like, I don't know, utility bills, like a screencast of your tool working, and like justification why you are gonna use certain scopes and things like that. So like I wanted to help Meet Near Me to in that social part. So here we are. We are trying to integrate two SaaS tools,
Yep.
and yeah, that's pretty much the
Yeah,
background.
awesome. And by the way, like this is a big advertisement for Brooke. I mean, she introduced us, and it was, I think, Brooke. I mean, I feel like just, in between conversation with the two of us separately, maybe you arrived at the idea that this could be cool. I don't know. I mean, maybe you're the author of this idea, which is totally fine. So anyway, pretty cool, I think, in the sense that it's a great example. Like Brooke, you always talk about networking, so big win for Brooke and helping us to set this up. So, and I'm excited because like it works super well that we're both we're both companies are sort of early stage, and so it works well to work together. For Meet Near Me, I actually had a customer who like had a poor registration turnout recently because they just like forgot to post to social media. So having the ability to create an event and then just go ahead right away while you're right there in the admin and schedule out all the content to all these different platforms. And big thank you to Maho, because he waded through. It's like, I think originally you didn't have like Instagram and like Facebook or something like that, and that's a big one for our customers. And so he waded through all the legal BS with their departments to get to where we are now. So cool. If nobody else says anything, I want to make good on the promise that this is built in public, and let's just start. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll with it. All right. So just to explain a little bit about where I am with this, I tried to start really like from the beginning. The platform obviously exists, but the part that doesn't is the integration's just not there at all. And so, yeah, everybody talks about AI and LLMs, and yeah, I use them all the time too. So I took the documentation that was provided for me by Maho. And so if I just like jump in here, this is like, he wrote this specially for me. I feel very special, and so this is our documentation. And last night, just kind of exploring this, I just went in and I dropped the whole docs site into Cursor, which can read URLs, and passed it to Claude. And I said like, hey, here's the VocalCat docs. Can you write me basically a JavaScript SDK for this? And so it did that, which is cool. And we're going to see how good AI is, really put it to the test in a moment, because just before this call, Maho and I were talking about this, and we were saying like, okay, I was like, do you have cores enabled on the server? And no big deal, right? But I was like, well, I probably don't want, the client shouldn't be talking directly to VocalCat, right? There should be a middleman, because Meet Near Me has a special a client secret, which we aren't going to expose, or we're going to try really hard not to expose today on stream. And we want to avoid a scenario where the client knows anything about that kind of thing, right? So I originally, in my exploration process, this is what it's like, sort of LLM assisted coding. I'm like, okay, write me a client. And so now I have to sit through and think about like, are the implementation details right? I talk about this all the time, right? Nowadays, reading code is a lot more valuable than writing code, because writing code is a depreciating, I think, with the way that I can just provide a docs site link and just get a SDK. That's pretty crazy. The question is, how wrong is this SDK? So we're going to find that part out. But anyway, that being said, I did review it, and it like seems reasonable to me at first pass. But like I said, ran into that cores issue. And so what we're going to do is
Okay, Brian, I
yeah,
just want to interrupt a little bit because
yeah,
then we are gonna test the LLM all the way. Because what I did is like I take the code, like my controllers, and I
yeah,
say generate a document for the
yeah.
API,
Nice.
and then yeah. So and then I mean I did review it a little bit, but I noticed that it made one or two errors there. So I
Okay.
took like the models and the controllers, generate the API document, and now you're taking the API document, is like generate my other part. So it is what it used to be NSWAG, for example, right? Or
Yeah.
open
Yeah.
API generators, but now we are using LLM for that. So
Absolutely. I'm so glad you called that out. That's hilarious because this is definitely, I'm sure that this will break at some point, and that's actually the important part about what I always tell people who are starting out. And I know, Brooke, your audience is a lot of career switchers, folks who are newer to programming, and something I emphasize a lot. In fact, on a podcast recently, I talked about this for like an hour. Is that you must, if it generates this huge file, which it did. This is I was like, I bet it's about 200 lines. It is. It's almost exactly 200 lines. So if it generates 200 lines of code, here's the hard part, right? If you're new, the way that I think you can succeed in the industry is like, if you don't know what this is, like this is the spread operator in JavaScript, right? If you don't know what that is, you have to ask what that is. And when you factor in that that's only 3 characters out of, thousands, you might have a lot of work ahead of you to actually understand like what is happening, right? Because you need to ask what this is. You need to ask about what the constructor object is in a class. You need to and on and on and on and on. So, but to Maho's point, it's like we're going to really stretch this because I'm about to feed this thing that it generated back to it and tell it to generate the equivalent for Go. We're going to translate this from JavaScript into Golang because, like I said before, we don't want to expose all of this on the client, have the client, my users, client know about the implementation details in VocalCat or in Meet Near Me, and especially that secret. So I'm going to now go ahead and do that. And I'm going to say, okay, okay. So that's a great start. Right now, I want, if I could type, I want to convert all of this JavaScript SDK into an equivalent Golang SDK. Can you provide code for that? But yeah, let's see what happens. This is going to be really wild.
have you used Cursor, Brooke?
No, even though all of my friends are telling me that that's the switch I should make because they love it. And actually, if any of my techies are watching, I want to know if you guys use Cursor because I hear nothing but great things about it. I'm still using VS Code on Linux, but yeah, I'm probably going to make the switch at some point. I just haven't done it.
Nice. Also, quick plug for Claude. My experience is it's the best. Claude Sonnet 3.7 is, I'm pretty sure what we're using. I have to look at the options here, but although maybe this is, so I'll say this, man. Recently I was in agent mode and I was like, okay, I accidentally got dropped into agent mode by an update to Cursor. And I never used it before. And I had this unit test and I knew what I wanted to assert to basically validate that XYZ is true. And I had to, I said, okay, write the middle logic. Like here's what we want to assert. Now go ahead and like finish the scaffolding for the rest of the unit test. And I watch it go through like I just did here, like we all kind of did, like 8 iterations. And then finally, the output is just deleted my assertion. Oh, man. And so I don't even know if that's a Claude thing because I'm in agent mode here. I normally am in ask mode. And
Right.
so in ask mode, which I really recommend if you're learning and stuff like that, oh man, they just changed this like I just got updated and I don't even know what's happening, because there used to be an option. Have you seen the latest update, Maho? There used to be an option right down here that was which model, oh, auto select. Oh, that's not good. Because I definitely want to use Claude Sonnet. I don't know what the difference is between Max but all right, whatever. Cool. So who knows whether that
Sorry,
yeah,
I
go ahead.
wasn't here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wasn't here. Yeah, sorry. I'm still sleepy. I probably need to take a coffee. So yeah, I think they changed recently. Their servers got overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
I just want to point out real quick, we had a comment from Aaron that said, I did not a fan. I'm probably not the best person to ask. I'm very skeptical of LLMs for programming. I totally respect that take. I just want to share. And also, like Brian mentioned, a lot of my audience are people who are career switchers or boot camp grads, of course, not all, but people who are relatively new to the industry like myself, right? And so I will say, especially whenever I was in my boot camp and whatnot, I really avoided AI like at all costs when it came to programming, because I was so focused on wanting to get a really good understanding of the fundamentals and not like letting my learning go a lot deeper. And I think that sometimes I think with anything, it can be a double-edged sword using AI. Like it's a great debugger. It is great for helping whenever you don't have other resources, which is part of why I say network. So you have like another brilliant human being to ask whenever you're stuck. Like I can't tell you how many times I've pinged both Brian or Mal and been like, "Hey, I don't know what this is. Please help." And it's been awesome. So there's good and bad to both. I just wanted to touch on that. But if you are starting out, if you are learning, try to get your hands dirty on your own, I say, before you ping AI to help you out, or you hit up ChatGPT or whatever you're using to find an answer. That's always my advice.
Yeah. And before
I think
people
there are different ways to learning, right? So I remember that I started learning with a game and I didn't understand 90% of the code, right? And then I started like modifying small things.
Yep.
And I think like, to your point, bro, like there are different ways of learning. There's people that loves to get the whole reference manual before throwing a single line of code. And I mean, it is okay. I respect that. But there is other people like me that we go to Stack Overflow and start copy pasting stuff until it works. And then later it comes this phase where you are understanding what you are doing. I'm not saying that you need to use LLM for production code, right? If you don't understand the fundamentals. But I would say that it's a very useful tool also for learning. So
yeah. And I totally agree. And by the way, like that's cool, Maho, because I started the same way, 20 years ago when I started, and I had like interacted with like MySpace and like GeoCities some and learned a little bit of HTML, but I just didn't really get very deep and I didn't know very much. So about 20 years ago is when I got serious about it. And I just copied the code. Back in those days, before everything was a Next.js app, you could actually copy paste the code, the source code. You just like right click, save as, or, like command save or something. And so I would just download sometimes big websites that were more complicated. Back in those days, they were still readable and not all uglified and minified code. And like Maho, I would just change one. I didn't know anything that was happening, but I would just change one little bit to see what happened. Oh, if I delete this, what happens? Oh, if I add something, what happens? And I knew almost nothing. So in that sense, I love what you said, Maho, because it's similar today, right? Like you're getting this like fire hose effect of like all this code coming at you, and then you're having to like figure out, can I take the time and slow down and basically ask what is happening here? What is the code doing? And like, you're not going to know everything that the code is doing if you're learning that way. But, I don't know. I guess 20 years later, I work for Salesforce. Maho works for Microsoft. So I guess you can learn that way. So anyway, back to this. But we are going to demonstrate that because while this is better than Googling, which I did 20 years ago, LLMs I think are better than that in general. It's still, there's a lot of risk here, right? There's a lot of potential for mistakes. So I'm going to take this. I'm just going to copy this bad boy. and then we're going to review this together. The green is kind of like bothering me, makes it a little harder to see. So in my code, I have a functions directory. So Meet Near Me is a Go API gateway in AWS right now. I'm actually kind of migrating off of AWS, but that's a separate story. But we have a functions directory, and then I have a gateway directory inside of it. And then inside of that, I have this helpers directory. And this helpers, like you can see, there's a Cloudflare file, Go file already here. So this is kind of where I interact with like other, just in code organization, this is like where I interact with other stuff. So I'm just gonna, I created a VocalCat client Go file, and I'm just gonna drop in, I just pasted the LLM code. And so package is actually going to be helpers. So in Golang, what just happened? Okay, in Golang, you've got packages, and they're like a little bit like classes, I guess we'll just call them. And so, but we can like extend them. And so all of the helpers directory is part of a single like package or sub package, which it was in my project. And so the reason I had red squiggles there in my IDE was because VocalCat doesn't exist, but helpers does. And so I made it so that it extends or adds this to helpers. All right, so the client is going to get a base URL, client ID, client secret, origin, access token, token expiration, and client. So this is a fun question for Mao, which is like, okay, is that accurate to your understanding? Because that's the implementation of what I think it expects in terms of like response for token expiry, and is this the correct key, for example? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. It's definitely not going to respond with time.time, which is a Go special struct. Like it's a construct specific to Go, and so but we'll get there. So anyway, what do you think, Maho? How's that look to you?
I will need to see how it is being used, but certainly the fields looks right if you are deserializing to that struct. So
yeah, cool. Yeah, so we'll look at deserialization in a bit here. I'm sure that happens. Hopefully that happens down low. Definitely wouldn't be surprised if the LLM missed it. That's the thing that can happen. Just like time.time could be wrong. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll basically take what is a string that comes back from the VocalCat API, and we'll deserialize that JSON response and then convert it to people like to talk about TypeScript. I'm famous for working on a project at my day job that's all JavaScript and TypeScript and saying I hate TypeScript. The reason I hate TypeScript is because at my job we have this problem where like the types is like if I look at this time.time, I get this fun little like pop-up window that describes the implementation, right, of that type. And so with our types, it's like 1,000 times more than this. And so when it says X doesn't satisfy type Y, it's like, oh, cool. Now I just need to find where in that 500,000 lines there's a mismatch. And so my problem is like types, if they're not done well, TypeScript types actually are worse than having no types, right? Because if you have 500,000 lines to parse through to find out where the mismatch is, it's actually just worse than having no types at all, because now I can't write any code and I have no effing clue what's happening, right? So anyway, Go is great because Go doesn't do like this thing where you kind of pile on and have like a million different types in the same space, where you could have one that could be either string or HTTP client or time. It tends toward, or the way I implement Go, and I don't know if this is idiomatic or not, is like if I want a different thing, I don't pile on to the same field. I just add a new field and then make that other one like optionally empty. So for me, that's been a nice like breath of fresh air, just in terms of like what is idiomatic Go. And I know this might feel like this is slow, but in talking through this, we are kind of affirming that, yeah, types, if they're done right, types are good, right? Types keep you honest. Types make sure that when you change one thing, you've got a unit test somewhere else that is impacted, and then you know that that change has, you know, potential sideways impact that you need to be wary of. So yeah, all right. But anyway, continuing on, config. We've got these API endpoint, client ID, client secret, origin, string. Origin's probably a hallucination because origin is implicit in the request. So I'm going to delete that. We don't really need to know that it's what its origin is. When Meet Near Me calls VocalCat, that's implicit in the call, right? We don't really care about that. And that's actually a leftover because I was trying to deal with CORS headers. And so cross origin, CORS stands for cross origin resource sharing. And so when dealing with the CORS headers and having an issue like I described before, where I was doing this like in the browser, the problem was, oh, I need to make sure that the CORS headers are set. And so some of that kind of is my fault, right? Like a lot of people get upset with LLMs, but it's like, this is my fault. I'm the one who said like, yeah, let's deal with CORS headers. And then the LLM just took my code that already had that CORS header handling and it just included it. It's like, well, that's your fault, Brian. So let's delete that. And we'll delete it here. And one of the nice things about Go is that you'll get compile errors. So your code doesn't even run if you're, you know, if it's not correct, right? So I love that about Go. So
cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, what was that? So any questions? Like, I guess I'm not sure. Like, I'm not watching the audience, and that's one of the cool parts about having Brooke and Maho here. So if you guys have anything,
Okay.
jump in.
No, they are talking about like TypeScript and stuff.
Yeah.
I think Microsoft actually rewrote the TypeScript compiler in Go, and it's now 10 times faster. So that is funny. It was in March, so then the new TypeScript is going to be 10 times faster. So
yeah, I know. I can't wait.
Also, just a super quick side note, nothing to do with anything. I did put this in the comments, but I got this amazing mug from Mao. He has this really cool YouTube channel called The Raccoon Bites. So follow him, and maybe he'll give you a mug too. Probably not, but maybe.
Nice. And follow Meet Near Me too, because I couldn't live stream this because I had like 137 followers on Meet Near Me's page. I'm very bad at the whole content creation thing, which is why Brooke and Ma are helping me, because I'm like, so if you follow me and 13 people do, then you can live stream this next time on the business page.
Yeah, and so there I'm going to drop the links in the comments, but there are business pages for both VocalCat and Meet Near Me. So please give them a follow, guys. I'll drop that in the link right now so you can focus on what you're doing. Brian.
Nice. Thanks. Cool.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right. So I'm just kind of browsing this a bit. And so this is the part, right? This is the thing. And when you don't start with something, you know, from zero, so you get past blank page syndrome, but you just have to deal with this new problem, which is like, oh, here's a mountain of text to read through. And I'm like reading through this and thinking through it. I'm like, okay, so we dropped like client or origin. So I'm going to search for origin because I want to make sure that I clean it everywhere. Like, here's another place it appears. Don't want that. And now it looks like there's no other instances of origin in here, which is good. That's what I'm looking for, because that was the kind of cruft or leftover from the original, like I said, the JavaScript implementation that we converted from. Okay, cool. So new client. That's cool. Config. So it's going to pass in a config. It wants me to instantiate a new client. Yeah. So this is just classic, like class-like behavior, right? You know, so when I say that, what I mean is we're going to instantiate an instance of the class and then reuse that. But the way that I kind of do this is I instantiate that class and then share it out. So if I go to events, serve, or Marco is actually, so I've been using this, you know, shout out to my friends at MarcoDB. historically I've been using Marco, which is a vector database, and they kind of were like sponsoring me for a while, which was a great help. I think I might end up going like a different direction maybe, but that, I don't want to take away from the fact that they helped me out. And so, but in the Marco implementation, so if you see here, we're in VocalCat. Oh, and I put it under helpers, but let's move it under services because it really is more of a service. So I'll move it, and then I need to update it to have the package services because I get red squiggles. Okay, cool. And so now we're good again. And so under here, this is more of the correct place where I have like a scraping service and, Marco, a geolocation service, auth service. This is where I interface with external clients. And so what I was trying to say here was like, get Marco client will essentially like return an instance of the class. So, again, don't know how like slow I should take it on explaining things, but I'm just explaining like this new client I'm thinking through is similar to a class in Java or JavaScript. Thankfully, both now have classes. And so that instance, we have a function that gets an instance of it and then basically will create one if it doesn't exist. So right here, we call new client. So in the same way that we have new client here, you see that Marco also has like a new client function. So if I search func new client, good question. I thought it was in here. I don't know. Func new client. Yeah. So I think, okay, got it. So I'm using a library here, and it's a Marco Go library. So in this case, the underlying library implements the same pattern that we're talking about over here on the left, right? That library has a new method, a new client method. And so we see that here as well. So the difference is I'm not going to use dependency injection. This may be controversial, but what we really want here is just to call, Go has a method called os.getEnv. And so I've already set these up prior to this stream. And we have a base URL that's in my env file, same as in like TypeScript and JavaScript, but it's in Go. I have a .env file. And then I've got a client ID and a client secret. And so I don't know if I need this HTTP client. No, that's a hallucination because, yeah, see, this wants me to pass in a client, but I have a whole layer that already handles for this. I have an API gateway, which I'll just show that real quick. In Go, I have all of my routes here. There's a lot of them. And so this is like, these are all the routes like API/user search, API/location geo, API/purchasables. That's for like tickets. When people purchase tickets through Meet Near Me, that's called a purchasable because you can also purchase like merch, like a t-shirt or something like that. So anyway, those are purchasables. And yeah, so we're going to ultimately add to this. So this is a little preview here of where we're going next. But we don't want it to, it has its own HTTP client behavior. So when I look at the bottom of this file, you're going to see that I initiate the app, which initiates a router. And so this is so we're working fairly low level here, by the way. And this is like server side architecture. So Meet Near Me is very weird in that it's not a Next.js app and it's mostly server rendered. And then for the parts that are front end, I use Alpine and HTMX. So we're going to talk about both of those at some point. But for now, we actually instantiate the router. So the router means that the server actually is able to receive requests and to route them to different logic, which is, these are the routes. And then this is the instance of the router. And so
Brian, I hate to interrupt you. I'm just curious because we got a comment from Aaron and he was just wondering, are you going to unit test this?
Yep, I'm going to unit test it. We have unit tests. We are very, very fancy. We are a startup with a whole 45% unit test coverage. So Maho might have something funny to say about that, because you call yourself the garbage code connoisseur, and you and I have never talked
Yeah,
about this.
but I think the question from Erin is because we are not Erin. Sorry, it's because we are not using dependency injection. And for example, when you are injecting the variables from the environment,
Yep.
I guess he's worrying like
Yeah.
he's wondering how are you gonna unit test that if you now have that dependency with the environment variables?
Such a great question. We do use a dependency injection pattern for some controllers that we dependency inject in a mock form in unit tests. But I actually like to, this is like super controversial. I'm sure somebody's going to like be like, oh man, somebody should fire Brian or whatever. But what I do here is I actually mock the environment variables themselves. So when I talk about how we're going to replace these, we're going to drop the dependency injection pattern. What I actually mean is that where's VocalCat? Instead of, we're going to use environment variables instead of dependency injection, and I'm going to mock those environment variables in unit tests. So if I look here at Marco's tests, Marco's service types, where'd my tests go? Marco's service tests. So what I do here, and this is, you might think this is a dumb idea, which is totally fine. You're allowed to think that. I have to mock these, and then I have a defer function which restores them to their pre-mocked value. And so that's how I do it, right? So
yeah, no, I mean there is a point that with experience you get like whatever works for you is fine. Like you need to have working software, but in the bell curve, like people that is like in the middle is like, no, you need to like everything needs to be, I don't know, decoupled and things like that, right? Which I mean, it has a value, but
yeah,
the more that you get in the bell curve to this side is the more it depends, right? Like it depends. Like
it depends.
So I think it's like being pragmatic, whatever works for you, I think is fine. And then you are assuming the tech dev or the maintainability and stuff like that. And not by doing that, it means that you don't have it. It just means that you are assuming the trade-offs with it, and you are conscious of those such trade-offs. So
yeah. So the big gap, I agree. The big gap on Meet Near Me right now is that one of the things I did lose by going away from React is that React testing library is nice for testing front end. And so I'm only at the beginning of this journey, but there's actually a Golang implementation of Playwright. And so I have a whole one test that's in Playwright that actually validates that code path and its logic, where you have Alpine logic. The server renders it in the mock testing environment, and then the Playwright Go like mock browser will actually click through the UI and verify. You can click by tickets. That slides out the sidebar. You can increment the number. You can click checkout. That returns a valid Stripe checkout URL. So anyway, yeah, that stuff's in place. And then the other thing that's wild is that I have this bit where I have a bind to port. So because I use a lot of external services in the same way that VocalCat is an external service, and this is standard, right? For many startups have this, where you're using external, providers for different functionality. In the Golang test environment, we actually have a round robin like effect where it actually increments the port and tracks whether that port is in use currently, and then rotates so that the next time the test environment asks for a new port, which would be like a mock version of VocalCat or Marco or any of the other services, right? It actually returns that rotation so that you don't have port conflicts. And it's been pretty good to me. I think like LLM is like kind of the genesis, like that helped suggest this to me. There was a lot of problems like getting it to correctly behave, and I had to really intervene a lot. But it's a great example of LLMs not just doing like boring stuff, but helping with something that's a little more complex, and so anyway, that's that. But yeah, hopefully that answers questions. Feel free to interrupt me. I'm probably just going to be in this like flow thing, and so both of you guys like let me know if people have questions.
Yeah, go.
Cool. So we're going to get this from the environment variable. The reason this has squiggles is because I haven't saved this file. When I hit save, which I just did, it's going to auto update. So my IDE is great for this. The tooling around Golang is pretty decent. I mean, there's not as much as there is for, TypeScript and stuff, but I'm happy with it.
Brian, I am going to interrupt you because we have another question from Elvin. It says, how would you architect the Playwright framework in Go to meet these needs?
What do you mean? The Playwright framework in Go? I mean, Playwright is the framework, and if I want to look at Playwright, where I actually call it. So I have a single instance that I start up in there's a test main file, which is like Go testing is built into Go, which is super powerful. One of the really great wins about Go, you don't have to decide on a testing library or that much about strategy, because Go has a pretty strong recommendation, and I've been good with it. I'm also somebody who learned Go from an LLM, and so there's going to be a bunch of gaps in my knowledge. I'm not going to be the expert in everything, but I did write 150,000 lines of code in Go, so I guess that's something, but but anyway, so I get an instance of the Playwright browser that starts in test main, and then I return that instance using the same pattern that we just talked about. We launch the Chromium browser, but then that browser instance that we return will have different behaviors. So for example, the only place I'm doing this right now this is exactly what I just described. I won't repeat myself. It's go to the home page, click an event, buy tickets, check out, whatever. So I do that here, and then I say, okay, get a new page, okay, and then go to the /event page, which I've mocked, by the way. So up here, I mock in the router where is the mock for this? Event ID 123. So much boilerplate. So Go has a lot of boilerplate, and this is an area where anybody who's experienced in Go, love to have suggestions for how I could do this better. So here's a mock server that returns an event. So the event has an ID of 123, and then down here we navigate to that mocked event for event /123. So that's the event details page. So we get that mock behavior back. We make sure that that there are no errors getting the event title, right? So I want to make sure there's an H1, that it's visible. I want to make sure that test event, which is the mocked behavior above, is the title of the event. And if so, we click on buy tickets. And then after we click on buy tickets, it slides out the sidebar. And then we say, click counter increment twice. So essentially we're ordering 2 tickets. And then we verify that the quantity is 2, because we actually wait for the page to make a request to the checkout endpoint. And we're like, okay, cool. Make sure that the quantity is 2 for this purchasable called test event. And, the name of it is called test ticket. This is the purchase item. Total should be $20. That's in base currency. And then we have this where we say, was checkout called? And then we wait for an on request. And then we set this to true after to verify that, yes, the UI does call that backend API with this body to the checkout endpoint. Anyway, fun times. Testing stuff. It's oh yeah. I used to be a hater of tests, if you're new and you feel overwhelmed by it, don't feel bad. I didn't do testing for a long time. Maho, I mean, with that name, the garbage code connoisseur, I'm sure you must have skipped tests at some point in your career.
No, yeah, I mean, I have been in several projects, and I have been in both parts of the aisle where I was no, everything should be isolated and you need to have 100 code coverage. But that actually doesn't solve all the bugs, right? So
yeah.
and now I am more, I mean, having 100 code coverage, it doesn't solve the bugs. And it had a lot of tests that are only to testing the machinery, the integration of certain things, the contracts. And it is just a lot of code that eventually you need to maintain and doesn't add a lot of value. So now I am more critical each time that I add a test. It's why do I need this test and what I want to test? So I have a more balanced approach now. But yeah, definitely. I mean, there are some things that you need to automate the test. I love test driven development. I love that unit tests also force you to um, have your code cleaner and like more decouple. And I think that I saw this conference from the guy that invent Agile. I think it was like 10 co-founders that came with the Agile manifesto. And he does say that on a stage, I don't do tests anymore because testing was a tool for me to help me improve the architecture and design of my code. And now I know the patterns, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to go through that, and I don't need to refactor my code after a unit test. So now I don't do unit tests. I mean, I don't fully agree with that, but it is something to consider.
I love all the takes on that. I just got to throw in again, just as someone who's relatively new to the tech industry, like whenever, because for those of you that don't know that are watching, I'm a boot camp grad. I did a 6-month boot camp. That was my launch into the tech industry, and it was great. I had a good experience, but we didn't cover testing at all. I didn't even know it was a thing. And I do want to plug. I'm going to drop her profile in the chat too because she's a genius. But Jay Yapel has really helped with my deficit in learning, and she's currently coaching me on and tutoring me with test-driven development. And I think it has made me just a much stronger developer. I love it. Like I said, just because it's not even something I was aware of in my learning. So I know that that's a big topic of conjecture.
Big controversy. I bet Maho has more of like a back end background. So I'll throw this out there. I think whether you're back end or front end, if you have no tests, I say that you have a problem. I'm sorry. But I disagree with the agile guy who says like no tests. That being said, what happens is if you're front end, a lot of your job is negotiating these weird spaces with product management and the design team and the customers and being like, oh, like the button should be over here and like the behavior should be that the drop down has the thing after this thing and so when you try to unit test all that up front, you're just hosed. There's no chance, right? And so I write tests at the end by default, but I'm also like, I'm historically more of a front end developer, right? And so that kind of rigor is especially, TDD comes more from folks that I think are really strong back ends. That's just my personal opinion. Is that like if you're trying to lock those requirements, you're trying to do waterfall, right? Which is like the old school way of you like take 3 months to write requirements docs, and then like the requirements docs are always wrong because they never are able to predict everything that's going to happen in a UI. And so, anyway, that's my soapbox, whatever, take it or leave it. But I write tests at the front end,
Yeah, it is true. Like I have more a full stack background, and TDD, it really applies to more like backend classes. Like for front end, I remember I started doing with Selenium the test and just looking for an element with XPath. And then in the next commit, someone changed the element to another XPath, and now all your tests are broken because the thing couldn't just click a button. So it is true. It is true. Now Cypress is a little bit better, and there are other. Yes,
Playwright is good. I mean, I'm using Playwright. That's one of the more popular modern ones, So, and it's pretty cool that there's a Go implementation so that I can take a server that serves like isomorphic JavaScript, which is my day job. I lead a team that does like the equivalent of Vercel, except for Salesforce Commerce, right? And that gets really complicated. Having code that has to always be correct simultaneously on both the client and server. So this has been like a real breath of fresh air for me because it's actually less complicated and less confusing. But yeah, the Playwright Go that we're using will return a mocked instance of, like whatever the mock server returns for an endpoint is an HTML page. And then you take that and you put that into a virtualized, Golang Playwright simulation browser, and you just interact with HTML. You don't have to have all those extra concerns around, difference between the server and client and hydration errors and all that kind of fun stuff that you get with React and everything. So Anyway, all right, let me get a little further here. I don't know. We're talking a lot, which is fine. I actually enjoy talking about this stuff. So, but let's see if we can press forward here. So, what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to mimic the pattern that we saw on the. So instead of creating a new client every time, which there's no point in that. I'm going to actually call the similar behavior to what I was talking about over here. So in the Marco service, we have a get Marco client, right? And so what we're saying here is in a similar way, and I'm going to actually write this code rather than, copy paste it, but func get vocal cat client. Yep, that's good actually. And then not this part, that's wrong. So that's the tricky part, right? With LLMs, it's like if you don't, you know what I mean? If you don't have experience, you're like, oh, that looks good too. Nope, that's not good. Right. And then, all right. So over here on the right, we're getting the environment variables, which is fine. We can get those like when we call new client. And let's see, Marco new client. And so then I believe we have the client will be stored as similar to a JavaScript like hoisted variable that's more of a global one. And then we just return client. So we store it internal, and then no, we're not really doing that thing I said about hoisting or whatever you want to call that. So that's fine. Okay, cool. So we'll just say that let's say client, new client config. Damn it keeps wanting to do that. It's really annoying. I got to delete this. That's why. All right. So delete this. So it used to be that most of my work was writing code. Now it's deleting code. You know what I mean? It's a very strange world that we live in. And we don't want this. This is garbage. And now we're good. Okay. And this doesn't return. So this is the parameters it accepts, which are none right now, and it returns an instance of client. Client is just a struct that will have these, values or whatever. And we're not, notice that this is an instance of this struct, similar to a TypeScript typed or whatever. And in that struct, we've got these, but it doesn't have access token, expiry, and client. So delete this because we don't want that client. Delete this. God, so annoying. And then from there, it's okay, cool. So is token expiry a thing? It's well, that's not part of the implementation. In other words, when I instantiate a new config here or here, I'm not going to set the token expiry. That's going to be something that VocalCat should control. So we don't want that either. And then the access token, that would be nuts if everybody shared the same access token. Let's not do that. And so now we're back to, something more reasonable. So we instantiate the client, we return the client. This is not great in the sense that, we don't really need this separation of concerns here because it's not really doing anything for us. Maho, were you gonna say something? I heard you.
No, I'm okay. I'm checking all the messages. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so access token. So when we call get auth headers, access token. That's the
it's
secret. Yeah, exactly.
It's because each subsequent call to VocalCat will need to have those two. So I'm guessing it is storing the access token somewhere, and then it's just retrieving those for the next calls. Yeah.
Yep, makes sense. Yeah. So it would. So we should store it then, I guess, huh? You think? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. I think it is. I think that the structure is not for a single call. It is just your structure for the whole thing session. Yeah. So you start without an access token, and then once that you get one, it will just store that there. Yeah.
Yeah. Although fun architecture challenge, because something that can happen here with a serverless. So everybody talks about serverless, and so this is this is AWS Lambda. And so we do have a risk that I think we probably want to always call VocalCat and never store that secret. Unfortunately, once I get off of the serverless architecture and into a monolith, which I am kind of
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, for the audience. So what we're trying to do here is like Meet Near Me as a platform will post to social media like Facebook and Instagram the events that the people have in Meetup and in Meet Near Me. But the thing here is the API for Meet Near Me will connect to VocalCat using a client ID and a secret.
Yeah.
But it will ask for authorization for one specific user of Meet Near Me. So that specific user gets authenticated to VocalCat with the access token. So the client ID and client secret, it is for the app, which is Meet Near Me, and the access token is going to be for the user. But in serverless applications, those are stateless. So we don't have, if you call something there and the next time that you call, you lost all the memory or there is no session. Yeah. So what Brian is saying is like, oh, we have a challenge here because each time that I want to post something, I need to go to VocalCat to get the access token and then post something because I don't have a way to store the access token. I mean, yes, for sure, Brian can implement a backend with the storage to store all the access tokens for the users. But for simplicity purposes, we don't want to do that right now.
Exactly. Yep. So yeah, cool. So VocalCat will get, we'll go through the whole OAuth flow and get that token for that user kind of like every time. So it'll be a little slower, but I think that's okay because for the most part, in Meet Near Me, it's like, what are we doing here? That's a good question. Like, let's give some here's some UI context. I think a lot of times we don't give UI context, and that's a problem. So if I'm District Karaoke, which is a real customer of mine, although this is my local environment, so don't worry, I'm not blowing them up in production. If I go in here to admin and I'm like, oh, okay, let me look at like the events that I've already created. So event admin, and it's like, oh, here's this event. And so if I had just finished creating this event, my plan is to just put right here a button that says post via VocalCat or something like that. You know what I mean? And so the user is not going to do a lot of exchanges with the VocalCat server because it's almost like the thing you do at the end, just like you hit save, you would hit like publish via social or whatever we say there. And so we won't be like hitting VocalCat really hard with like a high volume of like OAuth flow initiations, if that makes sense to people. So yeah, anyway. And so this pattern's kind of weird, isn't it, a little bit? Because over here on the right, I'm doing this because I'm using an external library where I need to instantiate the client. And then here, it's like, I can just call it client here, right? Like I could just be like client is this, and I don't really need like new client. It's never called anywhere. I've searched to make sure that the code doesn't actually call it. But yeah, so get VocalCat client will instantiate that the first time it's called, and it's just reading from environment variables. So some things, for example, when I instantiate Stripe in a similar way, there's an actual server exchange that happens that gets a stateful value. And by the way, that's where I got hit by serverless architecture, was that like, oh, the Stripe, that thing is stateful. And then the ephemeral Lambda environment might tear itself down, which in turn means that like now my state and my authentication for something that's already in process, was initiated, is now orphaned by the fact that that ephemeral environment is torn down. So yeah, really like tough stuff in terms of serverless architecture. But anyway, those are just like, so the client, is this even a client? And like the client is kind of the whole page, is the whole like file is the client really. But anyway, expiry. So do I want to, let's see, token expiry. That's the only place we call it. So we request it, and then we, yeah, so this is just that thing that we talked about, right? We're like not doing that. We're not going to keep a stateful concept of how long that token lives. I mean, we could, we could make it so that like we store it, and if it's available, we reuse it, if the Lambda environment is still alive and still has that state, but for now, we'll not worry about it. All right, so and this is where it goes wrong. So we call do here from the HTTP client instance, and so the instance of it that we killed is like C, and so this is a special dependency injection pattern that took me a little while with Go, where it's like, oh, there's an implicit pass through of a C if there's one available, but we deleted that, so we need to delete that. We need to delete that. And then we need this to just say, hey, when we get the auth headers, let's see, let me think about this. Client. Okay, no, so sorry, take that back. That was wrong, right? So this is this implicit, like client comes is passed via dependency injection. And so we're instantiating a client, and then we're saying that client that's instantiated here is in turn its stored value for ID and secret are passed in as headers, which is what we want. And so what we don't want, though, is this doesn't have a client like that. We're just going to use the global HTTP client in Go, and we're going to call do request there. And so continuing along, it's like, okay, we've got to here, like this is good so far. All we're doing is sitting and reviewing code that some robot wrote, you know what I mean? And it's okay, body reader. Okay, yep, I do want a body reader. I want to marshal this to JSON. So for those coming from a JavaScript background, like marshal.
I was just about to ask, so I'm glad you said something.
So marshal to JSON is like, so a lot of people compare Go to like C, which is a more low-level language. And I like that about it because I historically was operating mostly in JavaScript at a very high level. So I've done a bunch of stuff in like long time ago, 20 years ago. I did like 50 WordPress sites that I built for people in PHP. And, so I've done some backend like on that, but a lot of my backend experience is in Node personally. And so this has been good because it's been a good growing experience for me. But that just to say JSON.parse, JSON.stringify is kind of a little bit similar to what we're doing here. So Go sees bytes that come in and it converts those bytes into an internal type that is strict and, validates that it's valid JSON essentially. So Marshall is sort of like JSON Marshall is a little bit like JSON stringify, or well, it's a little bit like JSON parse, right? Do I have that right? Anyway, yeah. So anyway, we call those bytes. And so we're actually, in Go, you're actually interacting at a very low level with like ones and zeros. In fact, I wrote an algorithm in this like 6 months ago where I was weaving together latitude, longitude, and start time as a 64-bit Unix, value. And so when you weave them together, you can make it so things with the most similarity are co-located in a similar space in the database, and allows you to sort of more quickly access that data. And I actually got all the way down to looking at actual ones and zeros because I'm trying to weave a strand of three binary values together and make sure that, is the logic actually properly weaving these ones and zeros and these bytes together? So anyway, fun times. But that's a good example of like something I never did when I was doing like PHP WordPress sites 20 years ago. Like thanks to LLMs and learning Golang and moving more toward the back end, it's been a great growing opportunity for me. So anyway, all that to say, we have the body reader. We're going to marshal. It's like, I'm pretty sure this is correct. So we're going to call do request, and we're going to pass in method, path, and body. So the body would be that response body, most likely from VocalCat. And then we're going to read it, and we're going to say like, okay, is it valid JSON? And it's going to want it to look like this. this, like this. We want to see a client secret and an access token come back. Although is that correct, Maho? The token comes back, but does the secret come back? That doesn't sound right.
No, the secret doesn't come back, but you need to store it somewhere. So I'm guessing that's why. Yeah, but the secret doesn't come back.
Okay. So client secret. Okay, so maybe we're okay here. I'm just thinking about this. And then the other thing is we want a type for vocal cat response. And so this is where we're going to say, like, hey, this is a Maho question, like what our format is. I actually, on the side, for the AI, like, hater crowd, right? This is like, this SDK that it made, the JavaScript one, I was running into those options or those cores issues. And so I don't know if Maho had like vocal cat configured for that, but it's okay because we don't, like I said, we don't want to expose that secret to the client anyway. And the SDK that it created up here, like, was correct, by the way. You know what I mean? For anybody who thinks that, like, oh, this doesn't work, it's like, it was correct, because what happened was I took the curl request. So like if I'm in my browser and I'm over here, and like you can see, hopefully I don't expose a secret. I got to be careful. Yeah, I did, but oh well. Have to.
I can. Yeah, we'll rotate that after.
Yeah, we'll rotate that one after. But anyway, so the point here is I'm getting this CORS error. So for anybody who's not sure, like, I'm getting this CORS error. And so I took this and I simply copied it, right? Like I go copy as curl, and I copied it. I cleaned up some headers, and then over to the side where I'm not going to show you, in my terminal, I just sent that as a curl request, and it worked. So like, yay, Maho's API works. Great. I'm you know what I mean? And so it's just a CORS thing, right? So, but that being said, I can see I get an expires that back, and I get an access code back from Maho's API. And so, yeah. So anyway, that's kind of that. And so that's part of the request, is that we want to actually have this that we're marshaling to. And so I'm going to add those JSON keys, one being, we just said access token, access code, and the other is expires at. So we're going to have, let's delete this stuff. We'll just have access code, and that'll be a JSON string. So this is TypeScript, if you're not familiar, except it's in Go. And then we're typing this struct, and then we've got an expires at, which is looks like it's in RFC 339 date format from just what I'm looking at from Maho. So let's see, let's do this like time.time. And so we hope that this will come back as a RFC 339. Let me just like look at some reference code here. Yeah, that's what I thought. So I just want time RFC 3339 anyway. And let's see, why is that a problem? Untyped constant is not a type. I have to parse it. Okay, right. So it's time.time. And then we have to parse that to RFC 3339. And so I want to then add that vocal cat response. And let's see, in the response here, we're going to, so we called.
I think these do requests is not, it is the one that includes already the access token, right? So I'm guessing, like, if you scroll down, maybe there is another request.
Yep.
That one.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Good call out. Yeah. So that's a great example. Like, and I love pairing, because it's great when multiple people can notice these things, where it's like, this is the challenge, right? When you get dumped this big block of code, and then you have to sit through. It's like, we've been talking off topic a lot, but we've also been sitting here for an hour, and it's like, this is what I'm saying, is like, I think that the future is being able to read code. but you have to like do both, you know, like somehow to read code, you have to understand code, you know, and I don't know if you have to write code to understand code. I understand, Brooke, that you're thinking like trying to avoid AI and stuff. It's like, I don't know the answer to that question. I'm honestly not sure because I'm not at the beginning. So
Yeah.
folks like you will have to tell folks like me how that works. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, again, just touching on that, like I avoided it at first. Now I do use AI mainly for debugging, to be honest, just being transparent about how I do it. I don't use it too much for generative purposes as far as code goes. And I think it's been really, really helpful, but getting that grasp of the fundamentals and like you said, you earlier, just about like now my job is deleting code and knowing what to delete. Like I'm still at the point too where I see things and I go, yeah, that makes sense. And it's like, no, that's actually not correct. And it's not going to work. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, there's still, the discernment, being able to recognize why this is good, why this is bad, even if it looks correct.
Yep. And so here's another example of it. Continuing on, I started to create the struct, but it was actually already aware of the struct. So good job again, AI and Maho, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and there's only one miss, which it actually already figured out. If you look at the suggestion, it wants me to hit tab and complete this and convert this to lowercase because that's actually correct. It comes back lowercase. And so
I'm going to propose something, Brian, because we have 15 minutes more.
Yeah,
I'm going to propose that you go in hypervelocity with the LLM.
Yeah.
You focus and you try to implement this just to see how cool it is, how fast you can do it. So it's a sprint race. And then
let's do
Brogan and me, we can take the comments in the chat. So don't stop a lot in explaining. Let's see how fast you can do this.
All right, sounds good. I'm actually going to turn off AI then because I'm going to go faster. All right, so you guys just can like chat with people and talk. I'm going to like go super fast and I'm going to start doing what only I know how to do. And I'm going to create the router first, create the route associated with this. We're going to add a new route. Yep, okay, so this is VocalCat. Yup, looks good. Get VocalCat token handler. Okay. I'm not sure. That's fine.
You know, Brian and Mao, I know you guys are probably going to think this is silly because you guys have been in this industry for a while, but I've been able to do a little bit of work in Brian's database, which was really good experience for me. But I got to say, like, again, for my experience and the little bit of freelancing that I've done, but outside of that, it's been projects that I've built either in a very small group, a very small team. So the amount of files has also been very small. And then I remember Brian gave me the keys to the kingdom to this repo. And I was like, oh my God, what? And I have so much respect for being able to connect the dots between how everything connects whenever you have something at this scale. Like that continuously blows me away. And I'm sure I'll get more comfortable with it as just I gain more experience. I know you guys probably don't think anything of it now.
No. I mean, what people don't realize is then software engineering, the skill that you most need, and you spend more time reading code than writing code. Like, reading code, it is really the skill that you want. But to get to the point that you can read code, you need to write code first, right?
Yeah.
There are many styles and things like that. Even if you have like coding conventions, reading code. And I mean, for me, it was the same. I was already writing code for quite a bit years as a freelancer. But the first time that I have a full-time job as a software engineer, the first thing that I needed to do was fix an existing like system with hundreds of thousands of lines of code. And then just, I remember it was like a punching bag that you modify something here and then it just breaks something in other part of the system. And then you modify something here. And so just connecting the dots, as you said, in the system it's just hard at the beginning. So.
Let's see. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, just keep talking. I'm just like writing code. Like
Leticia has a nice conversation with herself in the chat. Like, she's using us as a Robin Duck, like debugging, where she's trying to map the stateless to the terms that she knows. And I'm reading the last comment: is introduce a state layer or move conditionals outside the system. Yeah, exactly. So like there is no conditionals in the sense that, oh, if I know this user when it receives a request, and if you want to do that, you need to have your own wrapper and orchestrator, which at that point is like, do I need a stateless, right? Do I need something like Lambda functions or so on? Because now you have an orchestrator. But yeah, I mean, I'm more familiar with Azure functions, but also I did a little bit of Lambda in AWS. And yeah, you start getting that external layer storage that can orchestrate different calls. So yeah, you got it right.
Yeah, thanks so
What am
much.
I doing? So update. What's Brian doing? So far, like I'm like going super fast, and I'm like, I think this is right. I think this is right. I think this is right. So what I did was I added an API to get the auth token. We're getting the social This is a handler for getting the socials. When we do it, we want to get that token every time, like we just said, similar to the Lambda conversation that just came up, because we're going to get the token refetch every time. So then we get the token response, and we're like, okay, so I infer the token because I'm saying like the user must be authenticated with Meet Near Me. I have to know who they are in Meet Near Me. Then once I know who that is, I can, authenticate them with VocalCat. And so it's like, okay, request the access token. All right, cool. So we're going to get that. And then we get the token response. And then the missing part, get social accounts. So get social accounts right now, if I look at VocalCat, get social accounts, it's like, okay, we're going to make that request, but this needs to accept token. So we want to pass the token in the header. And
so remember that do requests, well, yeah, maybe, but do requests already get the tokens?
Okay.
Get the headers?
Yeah. Sorry, do request. Okay, all right. Okay, cool. That's a good call out. So do request already gets let's see, where is that? Do request. Here
Maybe in the client.
Yeah.
There. So if you see the get out headers in 64,
Yeah.
that one,
Yep.
it's because
Yeah. Cool. Good call. Appreciate that. Cool. Okay, so the do request. So luckily, the LLM landed on code that kind of works for us, right? Like we're always, every time we call do request, we're always implicitly getting that token. So that's great. And so that means that I don't need this code because I'm not trying to get it. It's implicit, right? And instead, I'm going to say like get the socials, and then we'll just log those out, printf socials, and then return success. And then that's good enough for now. So let's see how this all plays out. So get social accounts. This is get social accounts user info sub. Oh, okay. This had this has this. So it's like we do actually want, right, to pass the user ID, right, Maho? And so
no, because remember that the access token is for a specific user. So each time that you call socials with that access code, it will return the social accounts from that user. So
got it. But then do request needs to implicitly pass in the because somewhere we have the client, we have the token, the super token that I have, and then I need to know which ID I'm getting on the token on behalf of, right? So
yeah, I think, can you go to the method request access token? I believe it was it was not this method, it was another one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. So if you see there the user ID, you are passing a user ID there.
Got it. So this one needs to be wired because I'm wiring that from here. You know what I mean?
Yes, so, the other one is the one that needs to be wired. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this doesn't get called. That's weird. So why does this not get called? I'm thinking about this. So I want to request an access token in every one of my handlers then, because I'm going to.
Right.
Okay. All right. Cool. So what I want to do here then is call request call what's this called? It's like services. Yeah, services dot request access token. Okay, but that's not right. I need to namespace this or it's going to confuse me. So request VocalCat access token. Cool. Now we can fix this. Cool. And then we can undefined services, request vocal cat access token. That shouldn't be undefined. Let's see, services. Services. Weird. I don't know why that's undefined. It shouldn't be.
What is user info.sub? It's a string.
Oh, yeah, but it's saying that the method is not recognized, undefined, you know. So I changed it over here. You know what I mean? Because like I had just like generic stuff over here, and so now I need to make this c.access token. Okay, get social accounts like headers. But yeah, this should be exposed.
I think it's probably because you have errors in the other class, so it is not compiling. You need to fix the errors. Yeah. So here in get social accounts, probably you need to remove the user ID and the headers, because those are already injected. So do request do not accept a new. Just remove that, and probably with this already compiles, and maybe the other one recognize the method.
Yeah. Let's see what happens here.
This looks like a matrix.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hey guys, as we're coming to towards the end of our time, for anyone who joined us a little later, I just want to reflect on sharing what exactly we did today. And we're working on integrating VocalCat with Brian's company, Meet Near Me, which helps users find events that are happening in person close to them. It's super, super cool. Please check out Meet Near Me. There's a company page. I'll drop the links one more time on LinkedIn. So follow Brian, follow his company. And what we're integrating is Mao's project, which is VocalCat, and I love it. I'm also partial to cats, so I know I'm a little bit biased, but it's a really, really cool tool to help you basically cross-post on multiple platforms while still maintaining your brand, your voice, staying true to your thoughts, your authenticity, which I'm a huge advocate for, and it helps you sort of translate to the specific platform that you're trying to post on. So I think that this is something that makes a lot of sense for Brian's users, for content creators such as myself. So I'm also going to drop the links to his company page, which you should please give a follow to. You guys are so smart. It's really cool watching you debug each other. And I'm like, yep, I know some of these words. And so I know I'm going to get there, but it's been a really cool learning experience for me. So it's like, thank you guys so much for letting me tune in on this. And
and the first time that Brian explained to me Meet Near Me, it just clicked, because like how, like, there is like this new generation. I am super old, but this new generation that wants to connect. And I know I have friends of this new generation, even if I don't understand the language, but the slang, but that they want to connect. They really want to connect. And I have met some people like, oh, I'm just new to the Seattle area, right? Like, but where do I make friends? And they don't know how to do it. I mean, they don't know where to meet. So
it's hard.
I think this is a real cool tool, which is going to be like a little bit challenging just to have the look and feel that the new generation wants, because we are older, so we don't understand, and we need to start like talking like no cap, and but once that we understand how to talk with the new generation, I think this tool is really amazing. I mean, be able to connect with other people, other humans, is something that it just clicked to me. It's like, oh yeah, I want to help Meet Near Me to achieve success.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I really appreciate that. And I think there's a lot of potential out there. A big challenge that I'm looking forward to, by the way, the reason, just to kind of say like, oh, people have heard about Meet Near Me because I've talked about it for a year. I've been building it. And so I built it just real quick, like for folks like this, right? So we've got the district karaoke, we've got DC Bocce League, and they've got the team Awesome is winning with 78 points, right? And so, so this is a customer of mine, right? And what I've been doing is I've kind of been in like a closed beta phase where I have paying users who are real customers, real users that are really using the platform. And I'm about to transition out of that, because the big thing that I was waiting for, and I know we're at time and that's all good. Like if I get cut off, no big deal. I'm almost wrapped up here. the thing that I was trying to do, what I originally set out to do in the very beginning, was to create something where you can put in a URL like, the pickleball league that you attend near your house or something, and we'll go and scrape that, because the hardest problem right now is that everybody wants to own events and they want it on their website, right? And so what Meet Near Me is going to be able to do soon, here's a little like plug, a little incoming preview. You'll soon be able to have your own that's hilarious. Is it Brian's Pub? That's so funny. Of course, the demo gods are not on my favorite
Yeah,
but
those always hit.
Yeah. Anyway, you'll be able to have your own theming, right? And so your page. So if you look at this page that has like DC Bocce, it has an about section. You'll soon be able to have your own logo and your own colors instead of like the green branding from Meet Near Me. And so you'll be able to alias that against your own website if you want, or use an embed code. And so that way, I'm trying to preserve the ability of event organizations to feel like they own the brand, but then everybody else benefits from the fact that they get to discover things more easily because it's all going to one place. And you'll be able to pull in like that pickleball league via a URL, and we'll just scrape that once a day and we'll pull those events in. And I'm like roughly a month or two out from releasing that like scraping layer, which will finally make it so that it's really full public beta, where at that point I want as many people as possible to go and add the pickleball league and the open mic night and whatever that's in their community and help each other, right? If you add 3 URLs and we pull that data in it once a day, and somebody else does that and somebody else does that, there's a network effect where everybody benefits, right? Like that problem of how do I meet people? It's like that's how we're hoping to solve it. So yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening. Is there anything else that you guys want to part with? If not, we can call it or whatever.
Hey, this has been an awesome learning experience for me, guys. Thank you so much for scheduling this, putting this together. I think, and also to be honest, I'm so glad that you guys like found each other. I think this is something that makes sense for both of you. So I'm excited to see this actually go into motion. It's awesome.
Yeah, big win for Brooke the connector. That's it's a superpower that not everybody has. So
I appreciate really that, Brian.
Appreciate you, Brooke.
Yeah, no, thanks so much, everyone, for all of your questions, all of your comments. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm sure we're going to be doing another Build in Public soon. Some more info to come. Follow Mal, follow Brian if you aren't already connected with them. They're both brilliant, lovely people. And yeah, we'll talk soon. Thanks so much, guys.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Right.